Hey everyone, I'm here with the April Tolbert, and we are about to get started on our radio show on 560 AM KLVI. We'd love for you to join us. June is National Homeowners Month. It's also the beginning of
hurricane season.
Yes, so we're going to talk about that and all kinds of things. Hey, if you have any questions, give us a call, 409-896-KLVI. We would love to visit with you, and the expert is here on anything insurance. So join us in just a few minutes.
Decades in the Southeast Texas real estate industry, Dayna makes buying or selling your home simple. 2 decades in the Southeast Texas real estate industry.
Well, hello. Hello, Southeast Texas. How are you? I hope you guys are enjoying this amazing day. It's absolutely beautiful out there, and when you know June is National Homeowners Month.
Hello.
Isn't that cool? Are you guys aware of that? It's also what?
Hurricane season.
Yes.
I always get to be the one to deliver the bad news.
It goes hand in hand with beginning of hurricane season. So listen, we're going to give you all the tips that you need this morning or this afternoon on what you need to know about your insurance and some things you need to do to prepare. So we're excited to have you guys here. Listen, you have any questions you have about insurance for April, give us a call at 409-896-KLVI. She's happy to answer those questions. But here we are. I have April Tolbert with Farmers Insurance. You guys have heard her on my show before. She's our resident expert on all things insurance. So, April, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dayna. You always have such a great guest and such great information, so I am so grateful to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I had someone yesterday pop into the office and was saying the same things. They're like, we really love the people that you have on your show. And I said, I know, I really have some incredible guests to join and who give great information about what's going on. So, April, some people out there may not know about you. So give everyone a little bit of information about who you are, how you started in insurance, how long you've been doing it. Just a little bit, 411 on you.
Sure, absolutely. I have been in insurance for close to 20 years now. That's kind of hard to say out loud. That makes me feel old. But I've been doing insurance in Southeast Texas a long time. And I just honestly was introduced to it out of a totally different field. And someone that I respected very much, had been a long time, 30 plus year agent, and just kept telling me, April, you need to get in the insurance business. And I thought, who wants to do insurance? That sounds boring. But thank goodness he was persistent. And I said, okay, well, I'll give it a try. And let me tell you what, from the time I started researching it, I was a homeowner. I owned my home. I owned cars. I had, all different kinds of insurance I was paying for. And I realized I had no idea what I was paying for.
Right.
And there were so many people out there like me.
Yes.
That they're just paying all this money and someone's telling them this is what you need, here's how much it costs, and they're not understanding what they have, what their options even are, more or less what it's going to do for them whenever they actually have to use it and file a claim. So I just it was where I was supposed to be. I developed a passion for insurance and helping people to understand their insurance coverage and what their options are. So if you're going to pay for something, at least know what you're paying for. And so I have developed this team. I've actually been with Farmers Insurance now as my parent company for 10 years this year. Will be my 10th anniversary with Farmers. And my office is out on Major Drive, 1640 North Major Drive. And I have a fantastic team of licensed insurance agents.
I agree.
And we just, everybody who works with me on my team has the same passion. They want to help people. And sometimes that means that I use my air quotes here, we sell them an insurance policy, but sometimes it just means that we just give them good advice and get them to the right place. And that's what we want to do. I mean, we're people in a for-profit business that have a nonprofit heart, if that makes sense. That's the kind of people I look for on my team. People that would do very well, working for a nonprofit, because people need help with insurance.
Right.
And that's what we're here to do. That's what our mission is. And that's why I appreciate you and your team so much and trying to educate your buyers when they are going through that process, that real estate transaction, about how important insurance is. Because you don't think about how important it is until that terrible thing happens at 2:00 in the morning and you have to call the fire trucks. You call 911, something terrible has happened. Then what?
And you may not even know what you have.
That's right.
Yeah.
You may not know who to call.
Right.
You may not know what you have, what's going to happen, what your deductibles are. Just the thing I preach all the time is just don't be surprised.
Right.
Don't be surprised. Know what you have. Don't let someone tell you, oh, this is what you need. Here's how much it costs. Just like what happened to me for all of those years. Educate yourself, because knowledge is power. So educate yourself.
I think your team and our team are on the same wavelength, and I think that's why we connect so well and do so well in business together as we work together. Is that our mission is similar to yours. Ours is home. Helping others means everything, and for us, it's the same exact thing. April, helping someone to know all the information, and then for them to make the decision that's best for their family. You know,
Right.
it's our job just to guide them through the process, not to make those decisions for them, but to guide them through. And I know that's what you guys do in educating the clients, educating the customer to know here are your options, and then you get to choose.
That's exactly right. That's it. And I think if more people did business like that, the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
Just if people, realized that the education portion of it is extremely important.
Right.
Just do the research is out there.
Mm-hmm.
The people like Dayna and her team and myself and my team, we're out there. The knowledge is there. All you have to do is reach out and grab it.
And ask for it.
That's
and
right.
we're happy to help. You know, when you were talking about someone had to kind of encourage you to do insurance, I'll be honest, when I was in school and people would say, what are you going to do? I'd say anything but sales.
That's right. Me too.
No way. I did
That's
not want to sell anything. And actually, my husband encouraged me to get into real estate. I'm like, I'm not going to do well, honey. Why would you? He said, Dayna, you have a heart for people. You should do it. And so he encouraged me to do this, and he's the reason why I'm sitting here today. Because he said, I see something in you that I think would work well in real estate. And then the Lord has just blessed it from that point on. I mean, it's just been an incredible journey. And just like you're almost 20 years, I'm almost 30 years into this. And it has been such a blessing to work with so many great people.
Absolutely.
And this being June and National Homeowners Month, it just gets me so excited because I love helping people become a homeowner.
Absolutely.
We know that when someone is a homeowner, they get the benefit of that security and that comfort of having your own home. We also know that they make for better citizens. I know you people out there renting, you're good citizens too, but we're looking at much of the national information that we receive that talks about when someone's a homeowner, just the pride that they take in keeping everything a certain way. You know, I was sitting on my back patio having coffee this morning, just thinking about how thankful I am to have a home. And we want that for everyone. Now, it may not be the exact time today for everyone, but we want to encourage and help people get to that point. So if you're out there and you're not a homeowner and you want to become a homeowner, it may not happen tomorrow, but we want to help you in the journey to get there. So if you want to sit down and talk to someone about that, we'd love to visit with you. April and I are going to get into talking about some insurance here in just a little bit, but I want to give you just an opportunity to call her with any questions that you may have about your insurance. She is a wealth of knowledge and a great educator. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call and ask them, 409-896-KLVI. This is the Dayna Simmons Show, and we're going to be right back after these messages. Okay, so I'll be Welcome back to the Dayna Simmons Show. We are here with April Tolbert, and we are talking about the fact that it's June and National Homeowners Month and the beginning of hurricane season.
June 1st, the dreaded day for me every year and everyone in Southeast Texas.
Yeah, as Danae said on our Facebook post, the dreaded H word.
That's right.
But growing up, I've lived here in Southeast Texas my entire life. And growing up, I don't recall there being much. I do remember, a couple of times having the thought of the potential of a hurricane.
Sure.
I was in Nederland, and I remember my mom, and them talking about it when I was a little girl. But it's not like what we had here in the last 30 years. So the first almost 30 years of my life. Yes, that tells my age, was a little different than the last 30 years of my life. So when I think about that, we were talking a little bit on the break about, I remember Katrina coming and watching that and watching the devastation and watching the people having to try to be rescued. And then shortly thereafter,
Like 3 weeks.
Yeah, here comes Rita.
Mm-hmm.
And in my personal experience, we evacuated, which is a miracle because my husband doesn't evacuate. He is one of those, but we had small children. So I'm like, honey, we're going. And thankfully we did, because in Rita, we had 2 big trees fall on top of our house and had some pretty significant damage. And so in that, it teaches you about what do you know you have with your insurance. It's exactly what you said in the previous segment. Do you know? We didn't at that time. We didn't know you then, April.
I didn't know you either, unfortunately.
And we didn't know what we had, and we didn't know what our deductible was. And we were out of town and had a friend of ours who was a police officer call us and say, yes, you have some significant damage, which is gut-wrenching.
Sure it is.
When you have no idea what does the inside look like, it wasn't safe for them to go in. There were power lines down, and so when that happens, that's not the time that you want to think, am I going to be covered?
Right. That's exactly right. And so many people got an education about their insurance after Hurricane Rita.
Right.
And the insurance world also changed a lot after Hurricane Rita as well, because the insurance companies got a education about our risk in Southeast Texas after that happened. And we've seen the results of that now since then. We've been seeing the rising cost of insurance, but that is a perfect example of making sure you know what you have. Because when you are actually evacuated and you're getting out of harm's way, hopefully you are far away. I was sitting at my mother's house in Plano, Texas, so I was evacuated as well, and got the same news. You have a large tree across your home,
right?
And not knowing, not seeing. There's so many people out there probably listening to us right now that had that same gut-wrenching feeling because you couldn't get here. And you couldn't see what the damage was, and you didn't know. And then you switch over to, my life, which is the insurance side of it. And I hope that every one of my customers has one little sigh of relief after that, because they know their insurance.
Right.
They know I've got good insurance. April and her team have taken care of me. I know what my deductible is. I know what the process is. I know what I'm to do. I know who I'm supposed to call, and I know what's going to happen. Or I know that I have that resource that is on the other end of the phone, that they're going to help me through this process, and I'm going to be okay. Just that little bit of sense of relief. Now, I don't have a chainsaw. I'm not going to be coming over and cutting a tree off of your house. That is not my area of expertise. But we will help you through the process and help, in the end, make you whole again. And make things right. And that's what you pay for insurance for.
Right. Yeah. I remember the terror in those moments. And it's many, many years ago. So we were just struggling in a lot of different areas then. And so for us, it was gut-wrenching to think about that. I do remember, however, we went to go drive through. I know this is just off topic, but we went to drive through a little car wash at a Walmart because we were at Holly Lake, and so we brought some. We had to go buy some food for there, and we're driving through this car wash, and the sign at that car wash it said, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him." That's the
moment.
verse that I'm like, okay, Lord, you're going to make it okay. No matter what, we're going to be okay because I trust in you. And so it's in those moments that are hard that so often you do get those types of messages.
Sure.
So I'm very thankful that I had that when I had so much uncertainty. But then, just like you saw lots of changes in the world of insurance, we saw changes in the real estate side of it too. Let me just say the dollar per square foot for brand new homes, you're going to be shocked by this. In 2005 was under $100 a square foot. It was like about $95 a square foot for a new construction home. After that, because of the material shortage, because of Rita, and because of Katrina,
Sure.
And because of all things that happened, just it impacted the real estate market significantly. So for those of you listening now who are looking at our market and seeing how just the pandemic has impacted it with all of that, we saw that then as well. So anything in the market can impact what's going to happen on prices. So we went from really $95 a square foot almost immediately to $105, $110 a square foot, $115 a square foot for new construction because the cost of material went up, supply and demand. Then, just like you were talking, insurance changed significantly.
That's right. But right after Hurricane Rita, really between Hurricane Rita and Hurricane Ike, which happened 2 years later, a lot of your big insurance companies, your big named insurance companies, did what we call X-Wind. The Texas Insurance Department of Insurance, the insurance commissioner, allowed the insurance companies approved them to remove the wind and hail coverage from a homeowner's policy.
Right.
And at that point, people discovered that there was such a thing as the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, because most people then, that was their only choice.
Right.
You could have Allstate or Farmers or State Farm or, one of your big insurance companies for the homeowners, but then you had to go to Texas Windstorm or TWIA for your windstorm insurance. And I have to say, that was what I thought that would always be the most significant impact to our insurance, and at least what we pay for insurance, what coverage that is provided under our policy, and what we pay for it. I really thought that was just dramatic. That was going to be a once in a lifetime turning point
challenge.
We will absolutely be talking about this for the rest of my insurance career. Back after Hurricane Rita, when basically our insurance cost almost doubled because we had to go with these separate windstorm policies and Texas Windstorm and all the things that we've learned since then. But I have to say, this year, 2022, has been, if not just as challenging, possibly even more challenging than what I remember after Hurricane Rita.
Wow.
We are seeing significant shifts in our cost of insurance. A lot of that has to do with availability of what companies are offering products and homeowners insurance and wind insurance here in Southeast Texas. There's so many factors. As the cost of, as you were saying, what drives the real estate market and the cost per square foot also drives the cost of repairs. So that also the availability, supply chain issues, availability of materials, cost of materials, all of those things are driving forces in what is going to be the claim outcome when you have to file a claim on your insurance. So that insurance company is not going to take the hit. Who are they going to pass that on to?
Right.
The consumer.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing right now. I visit with customers every day as we do their annual reviews of their insurance. It's coming up for renewal, and we're shopping around options. Is this still the best option? Is there another option out there that might be better for you, save you money next year? And so these are conversations that I have on a very regular basis. And one of the most consistent things that I'm hearing right now is how much between taxes and the tax increases and then the insurance increases that people are seeing, especially those that have escrow, and they're seeing their escrows adjust. So they're seeing their monthly mortgage payments go up significantly because of, yes, insurance is a big one, and taxes as well. So it is definitely something that if you haven't paid attention to your insurance recently, this is a great time to do that, because otherwise you're going to be surprised. Because every company that we deal with, and we have a lot of companies that we work with, not just farmers, and every company is seeing significant rate increases. An average $200,000 home, if somebody used to ask me even 2 years ago, they would say, what should we anticipate, kind of a ballpark of what our cost of insurance should be. We're looking to buy this $200,000 house. It's very basic information. I would say $2,400 a year, a couple $100 a month, maybe a little more, a little less, just depending on where it is and different factors. And that same home now can be double that. Wow. So in some cases, we have seen 100% increase in the last couple of years in the cost of insurance. And this isn't even talking about flood insurance. I know we'll get into that later and what's happening with the National Flood Insurance Program, but this is just homeowners and windstorm insurance.
Right, and so that's why it's so important. And one of the things that we want our clients to do is upfront get that quote so that if that's something that you can. We never want someone to purchase a house and then put themselves in a position that they're not going to be able to afford it. So these are things that you talk to your insurance agent and your real estate agent up front so that you can know exactly what those costs are going to be. April, I hadn't even thought about the fact that the rising costs of material, how that impacts insurance, but that makes complete sense. When the cost of making any kind of repair has gone up, of course the insurance company isn't going to eat that. So it makes complete sense. So you bringing that to our attention, I think, is really critical. Well, April and I are going to get to, in our next segment, we're going to get to additional information about insurance, but also about flooding and what you need to know about that. And what is the flood insurance rate? Where are they going? What's happening with that? So you're not going to want to leave. You're going to want to stay tuned, and we'll be right back. This is the Dayna Simmons Show.
You are listening to the
Welcome back. This is Dayna Simmons, and I'm joined by April Tolbert of April Tolbert Farmers Insurance, and we are talking about National Homeowners Month, and also, not the easiest thing to talk about, hurricane season and insurance. But if you're a homeowner, it's so important that you're informed about your insurance, what you need to know if something were to happen. It just happens to coincide with the same week of the start of hurricane season. So we're combining them together today and talking about the things that are important for you. April's been going through some of the things that have changed in the insurance business over the last 20 plus years and how some of the hurricanes and the windstorms have impacted some of our insurance. But one of the things I thought we might talk about, and everyone's talked about them, so most people know a lot of this, is just hurricane preparedness, being ready when it happens.
Sure.
I think the very first thing that we all need to know is, where do you go?
Mm-hmm.
What direction do you take? What is the hurricane route that you should go to? Well, TxDOT has that on their website. So what I've done is I've posted under our Dayna Simmons real estate post the address for TxDOT that you can just Google it. Hurricane evacuation for Beaumont, Texas, and it takes you right there, and it gives you the routes that you should take if you are needing to get out of town. You were saying you went to Plano.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Holly Lake one time. We went to Dallas and Grapevine one time. We've called it occasionally a hurrication.
We did too. Hurricane. We had several of them in the last few years, haven't we?
Yeah. And you can take a challenge and you can turn it into a little bit of a positive and make it at least a time of enjoyment for your family. If you can do that. The very first time was not enjoyable for me. I didn't take advantage of it. I was so nervous and anxious about the whole thing that I didn't enjoy myself, which I should have. Now I look back and I'm like, well, being anxious didn't change one thing. So you might as well relax and enjoy yourself. So knowing where you're going, and then you probably understand protecting your home and taking an inventory.
Right. And those are things that, honestly, the inventory situation is something that you should do well before.
Right.
And we start talking about hurricane season June 1st every year. That's the official Atlantic hurricane season start. But those of us who have been here all of our lives, like Dayna and I, we know that our true hurricane season, the height of hurricane season for us is that August, September area there. And so it gives you a little bit of time. So as the insurance agent in the room, I have to say, number one is know your insurance well in advance.
Sure.
Have that review with your insurance agent.
Yes.
Make sure that you know what your coverage is, what your deductibles are, and that you have the phone numbers to call.
Right.
Because if you are evacuated somewhere else and you don't have access to your policy, you hear that you have damage to your home, know who you're going to call.
Yeah.
Have a phone number, have a policy number handy. But well ahead of time, now's the time before that peak of hurricane season to review your insurance coverage and do an inventory.
Right.
Because it doesn't have to be a hurricane. It could be, a fire. There could be other devastating things that happen that would trigger you having to file an insurance claim. Always, I recommend, when someone's buying a home, do an inventory. When you're moving, that's a great time. Once you get everything put into that closet, then take a picture. Just step back and take a picture. If you don't feel like you are one of those people who wants to do an Excel spreadsheet of every item that's in your home, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. But I do have video inventory. I just went around my home after I moved into my home. I opened all of the cabinets, opened all of the closets, all the drawers, and I just went into each room and each closet and each cabinet and just videoed. That way you have that with you. You have that with you wherever you are. And if you do have to do an inventory for the insurance company and everything's gone, you're never going to remember what was in that drawer or
That's
in the
exactly
back of that
right.
closet.
Yeah.
So at least that video or that picture will help you to make an inventory if that worst case scenario ever happens and you need that for your insurance company.
Right. And nowadays, upload it to the cloud.
That's right. That's exactly
You can
right.
access it wherever you need to go. And then putting your agent's information, the telephone number and your policy number in your notes in your phone. That's another great way to always have that with you.
That is a great idea. That's right. Have to have that information somewhere so that once you're at that crisis moment where you have to go to the text.website website and find out where am I heading,
That's
which
right.
north artery am I going to take north to evacuate. You already have that. That is one less thing that you have to worry about. And then at that moment, that's when you need to start thinking about how do I best prepare my home to actually leave my home.
Right.
Of course, everyone would recommend we should all have storm shutters, like we were at the beach, but most of us don't. So boarding up windows, securing items the best that you can, of course, making sure that your pets are with you. There, please don't leave pets behind.
Oh, goodness.
That there's no debris. Secure your things outside. So many people forget that their patio furniture in a wind event becomes a projectile.
Right.
Right? So bring that inside. Put it in the house, put it in the garage. Take anything that could become a projectile in a wind event, because you're not only protecting your property, you're protecting your neighbor's property as well.
Right.
Those are some key points of things to think of. Clean out your refrigerator and your freezer. How many of us had to deal with a terrible situation when we returned from being gone for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks with no electricity and a refrigerator or a freezer full of bad food? So things of that sort would be what I would recommend to help
Get ready. Prepare. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all of those were great things I remember when we came back from Rita. And, there was no electricity for weeks. And so it was 2 weeks of that refrigerator. And then it's Googling, how do I get this stench out of my refrigerator?
That's right. I had shrimp in my chest freezer when I returned from Rita. So, yes, I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, I think a lot of us did. I think many of us learned a lot in Rita, because it was a first-time big event that we had that really changed how we all look at hurricanes now. And while I've been listening to Greg Bostwick and watching many of his updates about hurricane season, and it talks about that hurricanes really aren't on the increase, but we've had a few more in our area than we've had in a long time. So, I love Greg's information. It's always helpful. But it's good for us to stay tuned and always listen to what our meteorologists, all of them are great. I really appreciate them all. But for us, we've not only seen the wind event, but we've also seen some flooding events. And so one of the very first flood events we saw was in 94.
Mm-hmm. We thought that would be the worst one of our lifetime.
That's exactly right. And then after that, we saw Harvey, and I remember it's like the 1,000-year flood. Our property in Findette, where we built, we were told, Interstate 10 would have to be underwater in order for you to flood. You're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Interstate 10 was underwater. And so we flooded. And so that brings up a whole nother conversation about flood insurance and what we need to do. And if you think you're never going to flood, and just conversations about that. So when we come back, we're going to wrap up today's show talking about flood insurance and giving people a little insight on what they need to know before flooding happens in your neck of the woods. So don't leave. We'll be right back. This is the Dayna Simmons Show. Welcome back. This is Dayna Simmons, and I'm here with April Tolbert of April Tolbert Farmers Insurance. And man, we were just talking. We're almost to the end of the show. We have so much more to say.
We do. There's so much. There's so much information.
I know, and it's been so great to have you on the show, April. I appreciate all of your input, but I know that the listeners have questions about flood insurance, and we've seen some changes and some pretty significant changes over the last years and what's going on with flood insurance. So talk to our audience a little bit about that.
First of all, if you don't mind, I want to say, even if your lender doesn't require flood insurance, please get flood insurance.
Yes.
And then I'll leave it at that, because we could go on and on about all the reasons why, whether you're in a high risk flood zone or not, you need flood insurance in Southeast Texas. But what has happened since effective October 1st of last year of 2021, FEMA changed the way that they price flood insurance nationwide. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. Flood zones have changed. This changed, that's changed. Some places, yes. Some places, some flood zones have changed. Orange has recently updated flood maps. So there are some areas where some flood zones have changed. However, the cost of flood insurance is changing for everyone nationwide, not just in Southeast Texas. So effective October 1st of last year, if you were purchasing a home or getting flood insurance for the first time, you would go to a new rate, what's called a full risk rate, or the rate that they're now going to charge based off of the risk of that particular home. There are no more preferred risk policies or preferred risk rates. We all have gotten very familiar over that last couple of years. It was $572 for the maximum residential flood policy through FEMA, which was $250,000 on the building and $100,000 for contents coverage. And that package, that preferred risk policy package, was $572 as long as you were not in what was considered to be a high risk flood zone, an A and AE, or at the beach, a V zone. But if you were in, most of us were in B, C, X zones are very common in this area. We all had the same price for our flood insurance. That is no longer. Now every home is rated differently. FEMA has the technology to be able to assess the actual risk of flooding for every home. So your home is going to be a different price than your neighbor, is going to be a different price than the person across the street. You can no longer say, well, my neighbor pays $600 a year for my flood insurance. Why is my flood insurance $1,200? Well, FEMA's not necessarily going to answer that question. Trust me, I've tried. They are going to say, that is your full risk rate. That is how we have determined the risk, to price the risk accordingly. So don't be surprised. Those of us who have had flood insurance in force effective April the 1st of this year, our renewals have started increasing. Now, they are not going to increase more than 18% year over year until your home hits whatever FEMA has established to be your full risk rate for your flood insurance. So don't be surprised when you get your flood insurance renewal bill and it's gone from $572 to $692, or, then the next year to $803. But it's going to go up whatever 18% year over year is, and
Right.
people that are better than math, they probably just rolled their eyes at me, because whatever 18% is year over year, that's how much it's going to go up until it hits that full risk rate. So whether you're shopping for a home and you're just signed your contract, and the first thing that Dayna's team is going to tell you at that point is,
get an inspection and get a quote on your insurance.
That's exactly right.
I say the two I's that are so important to do in the first week. You need to get an inspection and you need to get a quote on that insurance, because there really isn't anywhere in the contract another spot other than an option period to be able to know what your rate is. And if it's higher than you're willing to pay, it's the only time you can terminate the contract. So it's very important that you get that immediately upon execution of a contract.
And in this insurance climate, from the insurance agent in the room, I'm telling you, it is more important than it has ever been before.
Right.
Because just because the current owner of the home is paying XYZ, that does not mean that that's what you're going to be paying for your home insurance, for your wind insurance, or for your flood insurance. Now, in that scenario where you are buying a home and the current owner does have a current flood insurance policy, if that policy is eligible, not all policies are eligible, but if that policy is eligible, you can assume their policy. That way, you will pay their rate of 18% increase year over year versus just having to be hit immediately with the full risk rate. And when I feel like I'm being honest, really honest, whenever I say the majority of the policies that I am seeing in Southeast Texas are increasing. And most of them are increasing significantly. And I know that goes totally against what FEMA taught us as insurance agents on the training when all of this was coming out. They were saying 92% of flood insurance policyholders nationwide will see a decrease in the cost of their flood insurance with this new rating system. Well, that is not what we're seeing in Southeast Texas. We are seeing increases in the cost of flood insurance. So again, working with a real estate agent that knows and working with insurance, a local insurance agent that also knows how to educate you about this, what information to give you to make sure that you have every bit of knowledge to make the decision that's right for you.
Yeah, and the thing is, we talk about that it's expensive, but just when you have a flood claim, let me just say, it seems like nothing compared to the damage. And so for someone who has experienced a flood, and having flood insurance when, we were paying $700-800 a year compared to the $100,000 damage that was done, you say, but I can't afford it. You can't afford not to have it. Let me just say that. If you can't afford it, then maybe we need to come down on the price of the home. Maybe we need to consider a home that's of a little less value so that you can afford it. We want you to afford what you need in order to protect you long term. It's so heartbreaking when I have customers who called me after the flood who chose not to get flood insurance, whose houses were completely destroyed and they had to start over. It's heartbreaking.
Absolutely, it is. And I can't thank you enough for saying that, because I'm the insurance agent. So people think, oh, she's just trying to sell me an insurance policy. But this is real life.
Yeah.
And this is, am I going to pay, like Dayna said, am I going to pay $700-800, even if it's gone up? What if it's $1,500 or $2,000 a year? Is that worth it if your home is underwater and you have a $200,000 home and $100,000 worth of contents? That insurance company is going to write you a check for $300,000. Now, was that worth the cost of your $800 flood insurance policy or your $1,500 flood insurance policy? I think it is.
Yeah, and the trauma of it in the beginning is already so bad. When you lose everything. I've had a wind event, and I know what that's like, and then I've had a flood event. I'll take a wind event any day, let me just say. Having your home flooded is horrible. It's disgusting. It's trying to clean that up. And then to know that you don't have coverage and that you're going to have to go through all of that, it's really not worth it. So if you say, I can't afford it, let's figure out a way that you can buy a house that you can afford it. We were talking about the fact that, well, it's not going to ever happen here again. That's what we thought in '94. We thought we saw a worse flood then. And then Harvey, that's a 1,000-year flood. We're not going to see that again. And then Imelda.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
So, it's like, while some people don't like insurance,
Sure.
But let me tell you what, when you're in the middle of those situations, you're very thankful that you have insurance.
And right then is not the time you're thinking about what you paid for your insurance.
You're not. Yeah.
You're thinking about what kind of service am I getting? Or am I getting a responsive claim service?
Right.
Are they taking care of me? Are they writing checks? And in the end, am I made whole again?
Yeah.
That's the most important piece to having insurance.
Right.
It's not going somewhere, and I hate to use the word cut rate insurance, but I don't know how else to say that, but going basically to save a couple of $100 to some place in Kalamazoo that has never been through a hurricane or a flood, and they don't know what we deal with in Southeast Texas.
And they don't see you at the grocery store.
That's right. That's
you know,
right.
That's the thing about the people that I have on this show are people that we work with, people that we're in community with, people that when I go to the grocery store, I see my clients. So I want to be able to know that we've taken great care of them. And I know you're the same way.
Absolutely.
You want to do business with people who are here. So I know we've given you guys an awful lot of information about insurance and about what to do. If you have a question about if you're buying a home and you need information, listen, call my office at 409-866-8326, and we have someone ready to answer the phone for you right now. If you have any questions about insurance, April, give everyone the way to contact you.
Same thing here. If there's anything that, any questions that you have regarding insurance, I would love to help you. My team would love to help you and answer any questions. So you can call us at 409-866-1233 or stop by our office at 1640 North Major Drive in Beaumont.
April, thank you so much for being on the show. Have a happy Saturday. This is the Dayna Simmons Show.